discussion this morning on TVC News Breakfast. And joining us in the studio to discuss this, well, Nigeria has always had the tradition of great sports commentators, football commentators, and one of them is with us here, a sport journalist and a commentator for football, national football, the Nigeria Professional Football League, Damilola Onifade of Radio Nigeria. Glad to have you join us, Damilola.
Yeah, good morning, Solomon. Nice to be here.
Well, the NFF Act here, we think that we have the Nigeria Football Association as it is, and under the Nigeria Football Association Act, it means the NFF is a parastatal under the government.
Yeah. Yeah.
But now the NFF is saying it wants to be autonomous. It does not want to be a parastatal. Is that the way to go?
Yeah, I believe, Solomon, that that's the way to go because you have to look at the global standard of other countries. How do they run their football? And you must understand that FIFA itself, which is the world body running football, is an NGO. Is not under any government control of any country, even though it's domiciled in Switzerland. And so FIFA also demand the same from for the federations and the associations under it. And we've had this for a long time. This bill is not really new. Because it's been on since 2006, and we've had this debate. But the public hearing held yesterday, and I'm not really surprised by what we're hearing from the ministry and from the side of the NFF. But what is important is to understand that this bill majorly has 5 frameworks, and part of the 5 frameworks is that the bill recognizes the statutes of the NFF, because I believe that from the stakeholders of football in this country as well, that has been a sticking point in terms of if there is a bill in the National Assembly regulating football, don't you think it's also tantamount to interference from the government? Because the government gives you the rule, they can tell you what to do. But that is not the case. This bill recognizes the autonomy of NFF, and it also places the emphasis that the ruling body of the NFF will be the Congress, and that will be the statutes in tandem with the FIFA regulation. So I don't think we should have any worry. There are some parts of the bill that particularly I'm also not too comfortable with.
If you say we shouldn't worry, yeah, I will be worried.
Why?
If every time before this time and maybe going forward, forget whatever it is they are arguing about,
yeah,
the NFF, the football administrators, go cap in hand to the Nigerian government, draw from taxpayers' funds, and then turn around to accuse the government of interference, because sponsors also have a say. By the statute, the sponsors of the NFF should have a say. And so if the government is a primary sponsor, footing 75% of the bills of the NFF, then it should have a say and not be accused of interference.
And now it also comes down to how you see the bill, Solomon. Number one, you must understand that the government still has responsibility when it comes to sports and football. Part of what the bill recognizes is it places football as a national asset, and which means that one way or the other, the government will still contribute in some. I believe what we should do moving forward, the second vice president of the NFF, Sheudiko, said it clearly, and you said that as well, that the federation can run itself without government funding. However, I believe that in practice, that might be difficult as of this moment. What we should do, however, is that government should come into an agreement with the NFF, which mandates the NFF that they will get some level of funding from the government. However, they will also be subjected to audit by the government in terms of how these grants are released and how they are spent.
Actually, there's a provision for that in Section 2 of the proposed bill. Section 2, I think Part C or so, talks about that. It will be subject to audit. It will be subject to certain regulation as might be provided by the Nigerian law. But then there's this section, if it's going to have complete autonomy, does that also free it from Nigerian government control? Because this is still at the proposal stage. It is not yet a law.
It's not
and some of this part might still be subject to change.
Yeah, they might still be subject to change because the debate is still on. We're still going to have more conversations between the stakeholders and the government agencies that will be involved with this law at some point. But again, I insist, it depends on how you see freedom or autonomy, as the case may be. You don't expect that the NFF will just be on their own, they can do and undo. Because FIFA itself, at the moment, we are having issues in the court. I mean, FIFA is domiciled in Switzerland, and there are cases against the former executive committee of FIFA itself, which has to do with even the president, Sepp Blatter. And you will understand it's not the Court of Arbitration for Sports that is fight in FIFA, you permit me to use the word fight, is the regular court, the Swiss court. And
well,
so it means that if you
time here, people say that you cannot take football matters to court, you cannot take football people to court. When it's a matter of corruption, the NFF should probe itself. Why?
Yeah, the NFF cannot, you can't be the judge and the jury in your own case. The NFF cannot probe itself. The major thing is when you talk about interference, and that's the position of FIFA, it has to do with the sport itself, not in terms of corruption. I mean, if you are in Nigeria and there are corruption charges against you, you must abide by the law of the land. It's as simple as that, wherever you are. The Nigerian government has a responsibility, even if that money is not coming from the Nigerian government. If you're coming from corporate bodies and you're being accused of misappropriation, you can't be asked questions. Those are basic. I mean, the Swiss government is not funding FIFA. Yet, when there are situations, the Swiss court steps in. Don't forget, they were not even aware when this investigation started, and they started picking them up.
In your heart of heart, with $12 million coming to the NFF for Russia, at least $12 million coming for Russia 2018, would you then say that the bill should be passed quickly so that the government will not have to give them money? It will mean that if the bill is granted as it is, then the government will not give them money anymore at all, and they will stand on their own.
No, it might not necessarily mean the government will not give them money. It only means now that the NFF has a responsibility to be more accountable to the government. For example, you don't just go to the government and say we need 7 billion for the World Cup. You must state clearly why you need the money. And then you must also state that coming from FIFA, the organizers of the competition itself, something is coming from FIFA. And this is how you expect to spend the money, including allowances for the players. So that's very important. So that the bill is passed does not mean government does not have any financial responsibility to NFF. But it means, I insist, they will be more accountable. And that's why I believe that the government must sit them down and have a funding arrangement in terms of this is what we give you and this is what we expect of you. And if you do not do this, these are the implications. This happens everywhere. Don't forget, there is a case in England at the moment that the Minister of Sport is even telling the FA that they will not get development grants. Why? Because their system, their structures is not in line with what the government expects. So if the FA in England is having that situation, I mean, how much more the NFF?
All right, thank you very much there, Damilola Onifade. Well, it's been a discussion on the NFF bill. The public hearing took place yesterday in Abuja. That will be all of sports at this time as the Breakfast Show continues.